Hello student, today I have come up with a lesson first of your supplementary book Footprint Without Feet. Your first lesson name is A Triumph of Surgery, written by James Herriot. First of all, I'll tell you about the narrator. James Herriot was born on October 3, 1916. He was a British veterinary surgeon and writer who used his many years of experience as a veterinary surgeon to write a series of books. The story has three main characters: Mrs. Pamprey, Tricky, and James Herriot, the narrator. First of all, I'll tell you about Mrs. Pamprey. Mrs. Pamprey was a very rich woman who loved her dog too much. The second character is Tricky, who was Mrs. Pamprey's dog, who was abnormally fat. He was greedy and did not know to refuse food. The third character is our writer, James Herriot. He was a veterinary surgeon. He advised Mrs. Pamprey to keep her dog on a strict diet. Now, we'll move to the summary of a lesson. When the narrator saw Mrs. Pamprey's dog, Tricky, he became worried as the dog had become abnormally fat. Mrs. Pamprey told the narrator that her dog had become so restless that it seems to have no energy. So she told him that her dog must be suffering from malnutrition, so she had started giving some little extra between meals, like some malt, cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks to build her dog up. Out of love, she also gave her dog cream cakes and chocolate. The narrator found it a great trouble for Tricky. Tricky's only fault was greed. He had never been known to refuse food and would have it at any hours of the day or night. The narrator warned Mrs. Pamprey and advised her to keep Tricky on a very strict diet. The narrator expected a call soon from Mrs. Pamprey for her dog, and soon the call came. Mrs. Pamprey told that Tricky had stopped eating and refused even his favorite dishes. He had bought of vomiting also and was panting. The narrator knew the only way was to get Tricky out of Mrs. Pamprey's house for a fortnight, so he suggested Tricky to be hospitalized to save him. At this, the entire staff rose and rushed in and out to bring Tricky's different bed cushions, toys, bowls, coats, rubber ring, etc. At the surgery, the narrator treated Tricky in a tough but kind way. He made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box near the other dogs. No coat, cushions, or bed, etc. had been used. He served Tricky only water and no food for first 2 days, and no medical treatment was given. Controlled diet and a lot of exercise had cured Tricky. Tricky became a hard muscled and energetic dog again. During the process of fortnight treatment, Mrs. Pampry rang a dozen times to know the latest bulletins about Tricky, at which the narrator told her that Tricky was out of danger and was convalescing rapidly. Here, convalescing means getting better. The word convalescing made Mrs. Pampry to start sending fresh eggs, bottle of wines, brandy to surgery for Tricky. The doctor and his partner enjoyed these items. They started their day with the extra eggs, wines in the afternoon, and ended their day luxuriously round the fire with brandy. Those were the days of contentment, and they tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest of theirs. But at last, the narrator called Mrs. Pampry to collect her dog. When Mrs. Pampry saw that Tricky transformed into a hard muscled one out of gratitude, she called it the triumph of surgery. Here our story ends. Now, student, read out the chapter and try to do question answers by your own.